Trump and tariffs, look, we're better off than being in the European Union, and it's ironic, isn't it, that Keir Starmer says, look, we're doing better than Brussels, that Keir Starmer says, look at this great deal we've got with India.
You say you want to repeal the Online Safety Act. What, if anything, would you replace it with? Or do your concerns about free speech outweigh any concerns about children accessing suicide material, self-harm content or pornography? And Donald Trump's in the UK today. That issue of steel tariffs is still unresolved. Do you think that Donald Trump's tariffs have been good for British business?
Point one, as Zia made perfectly clear, of course we want to find a way of protecting young people from not getting hold of harmful or dangerous content. But if a result of what we've seen over the weekend is driving people off towards VPNs, to potentially towards the dark web, we might find young people accessing even more dangerous content than they were before this legislation came in. So, would we do our best to find a way of making this work? Yes, but frankly, Zia is far more tech savvy than I am, so I'm going to take his word for it. His belief is that those that drafted this act genuinely didn't understand how the tech world works and have produced something with the very best of intentions, but the result of which, frankly, does lead us towards a very dystopian place. Trump and tariffs, look, we're better off than being in the European Union, I think is the answer. And it's ironic, isn't it, that Keir Starmer says, look, we're doing better than Brussels, that Keir Starmer says, look at this great deal we've got with India, and, the most anti-Brexit, pro-second referendum Prime Minister, ironically, is actually benefiting in some ways from Brexit, mind you. Given everything else that's going on with his career at the moment, I guess he does need the odd good turn. Adam Cherry, GB News.
Thank you. Prime Minister's meeting the President today. Are you planning to meet President Trump whilst he's here? Are you still speaking to him, or have relations cooled with the President?
No, when he was up in Turnberry last May, I was there for GB News actually, but I was there and I stayed there, and I was obviously back for the campaign in November, and I was in Mar-a-Lago on the 5th and 6th. I'm in a slightly awkward position now, or he's in a slightly awkward position with me. I can't just bowl up on a friendly trip for diplomatic reasons, whilst he's there with the Prime Minister negotiating steel tariffs and much else. It just doesn't work. Am I on good terms? I had dinner with Donald Trump Jr. the other week. I'm in good terms. I'm on good terms with the administration. My relationship with Trump has always been one of friendship, but right at the moment, diplomatically, it doesn't really work. Justine from ITV.
So a big part of your policing plan will require more resources for forces. How much will this cost, and where will the additional funding come from? And just secondly, on the online safety bill, if you get rid of this legislation, are you confident that social media platforms can police this content themselves?
Okay. Well, the answer to that, Zia, surely is that would just take us back to last Friday, wouldn't it? Correct. He says I'm right. So as far as that's concerned, sorry, your first question?
It's just on additional...
Oh, right, OK, no. We laid this out last week. Our estimate of 30,000 police, our estimate of increased prison places, our estimate of reopening police stations, and in particular having more custody areas, and Colin made the point, you can do an 8-hour shift and waste 5 hours of it driving to a nearby custody suite and back, and I'm seeing that in Clacton myself as being an issue. We've estimated the cost for that at 17.4 billion, and before you leave, we will give you a sheet that gives us all of our costings. How are we going to pay for it? Well, we're going to stop monstrosities like HS2. We're going to stop tens of billions a year being wasted on climate change. And as you know, we have ongoing conversations with the Bank of England, who appear to be quite close to locking in a loss of up to £100 billion. And it's a very odd debate we have, where we argue about £1.5 billion for, winter fuel allowances, and yet here we are happy. Oh, I almost forgot, didn't I? I almost forgot Sizewell. The cost of that's doubled from 20 billion to 40 billion. No proper debate about the tens of billions we waste. Huge arguments over $1 billion here and $1 billion there. Serena from Sky.
Thanks. This is also about cost, to be honest. You said £17 billion you're going to get from scrapping HS2 net zero. You're promising you'll halve crime rates in 5 years. It seems like a bargain price for that price tag. The party's economic programme also claims to deliver tax reductions, spending cuts, but also improved public services. This sounds a bit sort of Liz Truss economics, doesn't it? A bit too good to be true.
No, because what Liz Truss didn't do was put any spending cuts into that budget. And that was what did for the Truss and Kwarteng budget. They talked about what they would cut in terms of taxes to increase incentives, something that we all fully understand. What they didn't talk about were big cuts to public spending. And it's funny, but a chap in Argentina has cut the public sector workforce by 15%, and we're now witnessing Argentina really for the first time in 100 years, after just decline, devaluation, default, and we're now witnessing, I think, the beginnings of an economic miracle, which is happening in Argentina. It is incumbent upon us, between now and the next election, to explain to you and everybody else how we will reduce the size of the state sector and get more efficiency into our public services. And I accept I haven't got the full answers on that right now, but it is a direction of travel.
I just got one on Trump as well.
Yes,